How can you get an 80% discount on your LinkedIn ads traffic? It's totally possible, and this week's guest teaches us how on this week's episode of the LinkedIn Ads Show.
Welcome to the LinkedIn Ads Show. Here's your host, AJ Wilcox.
Hey there, LinkedIn Ads fanatics. As he said, I'm AJ Wilcox, and I'm host of the weekly podcast, The LinkedIn Ads Show. This is for advanced B2B marketers to engage in a transformational journey towards mastering LinkedIn ads and achieving true pro status. In the news this week, I've already shared this with the LinkedIn Ads fanatics community, so come join us if you haven't already, if you want to get the inside scoop. But one of the product marketing managers at LinkedIn let me know this week that message ads are officially here to stay. We lost them for a little while, they came back, and I just assumed that people complained and wanted them back, and so LinkedIn gave them back to us temporarily. But turns out it's permanent, and we have message ads for the foreseeable future. I'm really excited about this because I hate losing any ad format that could bring us value. She mentioned that LinkedIn's going to continue evolving all the sponsored messaging formats and functions, which is fantastic. I'm excited about what's coming up. She also let me know that sponsored messaging has an updated frequency cap. So it used to be that each member on LinkedIn could receive one of these sponsored messaging ads every 30 days. Well, now it's every 21 days, which is better for us advertisers. And I really don't think it's going to change the user experience very much at all. If you receive one of these 7 days earlier than what you used to, I can't imagine anyone cares. So just like the PMM at LinkedIn got in touch with us to give me feedback and correct things that we talked about in the past, if you have a question, a review, or feedback for the show, message me on LinkedIn or email us at podcast@b2linked.com. Send it to us in a voice recording, and I'll be happy to include it here on the show. And I can keep you anonymous or share your details and shout you out as well. So record yourself asking a question, commenting, correcting, anything from a past episode, and I'd love to include you. Okay, I am super excited to introduce our guest today. His name's Chandler Quinton, and he's a video creative genius. He's found some incredible successes with LinkedIn ads, and I couldn't stand not to share his findings with you. We've gotten the chance to collaborate quite a bit recently, and every time we talk, I find myself learning so much. And so without further ado, let's hit it. All right, I'm so excited to have Chandler Quinton here. He's a co-founder of Video Brothers. They're a creative agency that focuses just on B2B. Chandler, I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast.
Hey, I am super excited as well. And this needs to be said, now that we're rolling, thank you, AJ, as well as the B2 Link team for creating just an amazing resource for everyone who's, active on LinkedIn, trying to market and advertise the best that they can. All of your knowledge and insight has done wonders in terms of our core understanding of LinkedIn and kind of getting our feet wet with trying ads and all those things. And if it wasn't for you, we would not actually be pushing LinkedIn as hard as we are now. I mean, there's gold in the hills on LinkedIn, and thanks to you for showing us that it can be found and success can be had, because LinkedIn is a challenging platform, and you've made it easy, fun, and exciting for us to all learn about it. So thank you on behalf of the entire B2B community, as well as myself personally, and I'm glad to be here. So let's get to it.
Well, thanks, Chandler. The thanks go both directions. I've learned so much from you. You and I have had conversations about creativity in B2B and what works on LinkedIn ads and all of these disruptive strategies that we're going to talk about today. But I was like, after having these conversations, the rest of the LinkedIn ads fanatics community has to hear about this. So I'm so excited to get to share what we've kind of talked about offline, and I'm sure we'll delve into quite a bit more. I'll also mention to everyone, you have done a heck of a lot with LinkedIn ads. Like, yeah, you're a video production agency, very, very creative, but you get very highly technical into LinkedIn. And so I think you've got a lot of awesome stuff to share with the fanatics.
Oh, awesome. I'm excited to share.
Cool. All right, so tell us about your background. I mean, obviously I gave your title, but tell us who you are personally, professionally, where you've come from, all that.
Cool. So I've been an agency person for quite a long time. My first role was as a strategist at Razorfish, which at the time was the biggest ad agency in the world. And I left that to start my own digital marketing firm and grew that over a number of years and exited that successfully, which was fantastic. And then moved on to the video world about 11 years ago. And over the course of our video career, our video business here, we've worked with all sorts of different brands, from not only B2B, but also B2C. We've worked with brands like the NFL, Bose, Google, and more importantly, Lego. We created their live action YouTube series, Rubriculous, which taught us how to scale production as well as how to use data to make something very, very watchable, shareable, and successful. So we're bringing 11 years of insight into B2B to help, change the tide of what B2B is kind of known for, which is unfortunately is a little boring, a little dry. And I think the world is shifting to where B2C is, which is entertaining, fun, engaging, shareable, watchable, all those things. Because at the end of the day, the customer at the other end is a human, just like B2C thinks. So we're bringing all of that knowledge and insight to B2B, and we're finding incredible amount of traction doing it. And we're excited to see all these B2B companies jumping in on the fun. It's awesome.
So you've obviously done everything. I'm curious, why B2B? I mean, you've worked with huge B2C brands. Why are you bringing your expertise to us, our side, the boring side, quote unquote?
Well, to be honest with you, it's an opportunity because B2B is not known for pushing the envelope in terms of marketing and advertising, yet their ticket value on enterprise clients are so high that they need to be thinking about this type of thing. They need to be thinking bigger, bolder, more exciting. And as soon as we kind of started learning a little bit about LinkedIn and seeing kind of the marketing and advertising that was common on the platform, your white papers, your lead gen forms, your infographics, and we started doing our own testing of our own fun and entertaining ads, we realized that, oh my gosh, this is what the B2B world wants. And we're hearing that from prospects every single day. Thank you to LinkedIn for sending us these prospects via our ads. So it works out. It's an opportunity.
Very cool. Well, because of that, I can't think of anyone better to talk to about creativity in B2B. What makes you so bullish about using LinkedIn ads? I mean, I know you are specializing in B2B, but why LinkedIn ads? Why any other platform?
So that's a great question. And I do want to say and make it clear that our only paid advertising channel is LinkedIn. And that sounds odd for a creative video production company. However, that's where our ICP lives. It's where they hang out. It's where they socialize. It's where they learn. It's where they find products and services to buy. And once we gave it a try and put out our own fun ads, then we saw incredible performance and just incredible traction. We realized that this is where this is done. And if our ads work for ourselves on LinkedIn, they're going to work for other B2B companies as well. They just need to be not afraid to try something new and different. And we're seeing a lot more of it every single day on LinkedIn.
All right, so why is it so important to stand out? I see a lot of boring content in my newsfeed, a lot of boring LinkedIn ads. Obviously, part of the show is trying to help everyone improve. But tell us about standing out. Why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, standing out is the number one thing that you want to do when you're advertising. I mean, especially on LinkedIn, your number one goal should be to stop the scroll. You want people to stop on your content, read your content, watch your content, digest it, so you can then, as an advertiser, retarget this audience. They're showing intent and interest by stopping on your content. Now, standing out on LinkedIn is, you're in a mix of a lot of white papers and infographics and things like that are typically dry. So standing out being your number one objective kind of makes things a little bit easier to kind of comprehend, right? If your goal is to get someone to stop on the scroll, then all you're doing is creating, engaging content that makes that possible, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally does. All right, so do you have any tips for us on how to make creative that stands out?
I would say the number one thing that I would recommend in terms of any B2B company looking to stand out is to think outside the box, keep things simple, and keep things fun. I mean, at the end of the day, most audiences on any social network are looking for that dopamine hit. They're looking for that thing that catches their eye, that surprises them, that makes their day better, can give them some insight and information. And, if you kind of think about that going into creating any marketing, you're going to find a lot better, results because you're not leaning into kind of the old style of marketing and advertising, which again, apparently on LinkedIn, it's a lot of boring and dry stuff. And no, not saying anything ill to the B2B marketers out there, but I believe most of them would agree there's a shift happening from the old way to kind of the new way, right? Because the generation of the buyers committee has come from an era of growing up with content and entertainment at our fingertips. So we should expect the same as B2B buyers to have that same kind of interaction with the social platform.
Oh, totally. What are some of the results that you've seen so far from your advertising? Have you tested running ads for yourself that are boring and don't stop a scroll versus ones that do? Like, and what have you found business-wise from these?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question because we almost didn't know we were creating boring ads compared to some of our ads that have been more successful. So, the first thing that we did when we started spending ad dollars on LinkedIn was we created a traditional funnel where we had, a nice, fun, engaging video at the top. And then after that was when we kind of relied on more traditional stuff, a lot of text on screen, kind of, highlighting our value prop and things like that. And for the first kind of phase of our LinkedIn advertising, we were wondering, like, why is the performance so bad? Like, no one's engaging with our ads, no one's clicking through. And we realized that we fell into our own trap of doing things the traditional way. That goes from not only how the creative was delivered, but also how the funnel was set up. And that's something that we've been really trying to disrupt is how to rethink the funnel. I think there's a lot of complications out there, a lot of misinformation. And I think the cookie cutter approach it doesn't work for everybody. So you have to be bold enough to try something new. And we found a lot of success doing that. So, in terms of, results that I think your audience might respond to is, I think the benchmark on LinkedIn for a view rate is, probably around 20% on a good day for most B2B advertisers. When you make something fun and engaging, like what we do for our clients and ourselves, we're hitting 30, 40, 50%, and sometimes even higher than that, depending on how like kind of out there the advertising is. And if you're getting a view rate like that, your efficiency is just through the roof. We're capturing audiences for what I hope to be the cheapest we've ever seen. And, we want to bring those types of results to our clients. It's the only way B2B is going to move forward is by doing this sort of thing. And the efficiency is just incredible with engaging content.
All right. So we've seen with what I would consider more boring, more standard video in B2B, we like to calculate video effectiveness based off of a cost per 50% view. In most of the time that we see, we're like, if you're targeting North America, you're probably going to be paying like $5 to $7. What do your numbers look like compared?
Well, on our 25% view, we're usually between 25 cents and 35, 40 cents. And on the 50%, it's probably around 65 or 75 cents, rarely over $1, which I didn't know was decent performance until you told me it was. And that's kind of been the fun part of our relationship is us kind of trying something out that we learned on your show, putting into practice, and then going like, are these good results? And it's awesome hearing that they are because we don't have the context that you have. We don't have the benchmarks in mind that you have. So what might be good results to one team might not sound exciting to another. But for us, all of the data has shown us that we are onto the right mix and our clients are experiencing the same exact thing, which is fantastic. It shows that everyone's onto something here, which is really interesting.
All right. So just to all the fanatics out there, I need you to understand this. If other brands are paying $5 to $7 in ad spend in order to get people to watch at least 50% of their ad creative, but Chandler's here telling us that he has creative, he's implemented creative that is getting less than $1, you need to be listening. I actually had this question teed up for later, but I want it up front right now. So everyone listening is going to be like, oh, these are the results I can expect. Okay, now I'm paying attention. So now that we have that in the bag, you have everyone's full attention. Tell us about your creative process. Like, what goes into making a video or any creative that is interesting?
So aside from what we like to, call our proprietary creative process, that's all the internal brainstorming, creative ideation we do on our side whenever we work with any of our clients. We have some frameworks that we use to kind of help the client understand, what we're actually doing here. When we create a video for a B2B company, the first thing I want to say is we don't just create one video. That's not what this business is. That's not what we do. We create suites of video content. So if you're doing an advertising campaign, that's going to be handfuls of ads. It's going to be 30-second ads, 15-second ads, 6-second ads. It's going to be variations of those ads, different calls to action, all those things, right? But in order to get there, you need to start with, that core idea. What do you want the audience to take away from the ad that they will see? Now, a lot of companies, they'll kind of fall into the trap of trying to get every feature and benefit that their company could ever offer into an ad. And that's just not the way to go. You need that one why. So we kind of have this framework of one, right? So one why, one feature, one benefit, one call to action, one result you're going for. And if you can kind of rally around that idea and not be afraid to not tell your whole story, then you're going to find a lot more success, because you're going to be able to have shorter content, which does a lot better, a lot more content that's resonating. Another thing we recommend is, this simple premise of making things surprising and interesting. At the end of the day, the person on the other end of an ad is a human being. So if you can make something surprising and interesting to them, they're more likely to stop and take a look at what you've put in front of them. Now, the balancing act is making it relevant and connected to the ICP. So if you can make something surprising and interesting, yet relevant and connected to the ICP, you kind of have the magic mix of the perfect ad, because the audience on the other side will say, oh my gosh, you made this for me. Like, this is for me. I'm a CIO, I'm a CTO, I'm a CMO. You're speaking my language, you get me. And that's kind of the thing we like to get across is, what's the content that you would like to see? What's the content that you stop at when you're on social media? And using all that insight and kind of really pushing the client creatively and going through our creative process and our brainstorming and our concept presentations, we get to a point where at the end of it, 99% of the time, the client is just, they can't even believe how simple they've created the message that we're about to bring forward in the upcoming ads that we're making for them.
Oh, very cool. So you mentioned that you've tested a lot of different formats, a lot of different lengths. Have you found a magic combination that LinkedIn advertisers should be relying on?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think if you don't mind, we can also kind of tie this into objectives, because I know that's like a hot topic in the B2 Linked and podcast community here with your show. But we've tried everything. So let's start at the cold layer. So at the cold layer, we've tried everything from what we call billboard ads, which are, 5 or 6 second, really short form pieces, to even 2+ minute pieces. And the number one thing that is, I think, true probably across all advertisers, all products and services, is that shorter is better. Now, I think that there's kind of an overcorrection you can make there. I mentioned those 6-second billboard ads we run. Those are good for capturing audience, but I don't think that they capture the audience that you might be looking for, because they're so short. 25% of, 5 seconds is a tiny amount of time. So I would recommend on the cold layer sticking between 15 and 30 seconds. And you'll always spend more money on a longer piece of content to get your 50% viewers. So if you're between 15 and 30, you're in the sweet spot for the cold audiences. And now, one thing that we've been learning and kind of together in the past couple months is objectives are also important for this performance, especially on the cold layer. So I like to kind of think of LinkedIn as a Venn diagram of audiences. So you'll have one audience that will be served video view ads, and you'll have another audience that will be served click ads, and another audience that will be served engagement. And I think there's probably overlap in terms of how LinkedIn serves these ads. But if you're not running multiple objectives, you might be missing pockets of audiences. And we discovered that once our engagement campaign started to peter out. We turned on views and, oh my gosh, there's an audience here. So we started realizing that it's not, the length has something to do with it, but also a combination of objectives kind of working together, I think, are important as well. And as you move down the funnel and down your retargeting, you can show your audience longer videos. In fact, we've shown the same video again and again to our audience, which is probably rule number one in marketing to not do. You're going to have too much frequency, or they're going to see the same ad. It's going to get stale. But what we found was down the funnel, the audience will watch more and more of the video, even if it was a short one, which I think goes to show that it's one of those situations where you've scrolled by something and then you kind of move on. And then the next time you see it, you go, all right, I'm going to watch a little bit more of this. And we're seeing that exact thing happen, which is very interesting.
What about horizontal, square versus vertical? Have you tested those different sizes? Do you have a feel for like, if you could only pick one size, what would you pick?
If I were to pick one size, candidly, I'd probably pick vertical, because it does take up most of the screen real estate on mobile. However, most of the stuff we do produce is in the traditional 16:9. Now, there are really interesting ways to take a 16:9 and turn it into a 1:1 or a 9:16, which is the vertical aspect ratio. And that kind of works really well for just general production methodology. It's a lot easier to plan a production around a horizontal versus a vertical. Vertical can create a ton of challenges because you're limited to a very narrow screen space. But with the advent of AI and how we can kind of creatively frame productions, there are interesting ways to kind of take a 16:9 asset and then translate it to the 1:1 in the 9:16. Now, all that said, in terms of which one performs the best, I think that the rule of thumb should be to use a mix. And just as I mentioned with that Venn diagram, I think there are people that respond really well to a full kind of screen looking ad with a 9:16. And then you're going to have the people that are familiar with the square from Instagram. And then you're going to have the old school people that enjoy a nice 16:9 video like myself. So I think it's a mix. And we haven't really found one work better than the other. I'm sure there's a lot of theories on that. Maybe the comments will blow up of someone that says that 1:1 is the best, but we found that they're all good. They just probably get served to different audiences, and that's something to be considered.
Definitely, especially since vertical only gets served to mobile. If you know that people on mobile view video a certain way and appreciate certain kinds of content, it's kind of a cheat code to make it vertical and just get your mobile visitors. We've found Square to work quite well because it shows up great both on mobile and desktop. So I've been kind of cheating towards Square, but you're making me consider vertical a lot more.
Yeah, well, a little hack there for going Square if you have a traditional horizontal video is, and you see this a lot if you follow Adweek, they do this frequently. They'll post a Square video. Excuse me. They'll post a Square video and you'll notice that there'll be a black bar on the top and the bottom, and they'll actually put text in that box. It will say, Adweek is presenting this ad from XYZ or this company, and you actually have more real estate to add additional context to your content if you're trying to translate something horizontal into Square. So it's a really interesting place because there's a lot of flexibility. You don't need to create a Square video. You can create the horizontal one and then use that extra space for putting your website, putting a different call to action. LinkedIn doesn't let you customize the call to action button, but you can certainly add text in the top and bottom of a horizontal video if you're going for Square. It's a little nerdy, I'm sure, but there's fun things you can do. Absolutely.
What have you found subtitle-wise, or what do you actually put in that blank space?
That's a great question. Subtitles are really important, often a forgotten detail. So just the key thing on subtitles, just to cover that, is we always recommend when you create any ad asset is have an alternate version with baked in subtitles that are branded. The subtitles that the platform provides you automatically, they don't look good. They can potentially get in the way of important visuals in your video. And if you're baking them in yourself and they're branded, A, they're going to look better, but B, you can actually get creative with them. In one of our videos, we actually had the subtitles do one of those Disney, dances with the little, pronunciation. It was for our Light a Fire video where I'm getting that prison tattoo in the basement with my co-founder, Brian, right? That's a kind of that one's gone viral a couple times. And we have that little Disney ad-tainment when we're talking about advertising and entertainment together. So do branded subtitles if you can. And then in those up and down, those spaces, that's a great place to put subtitles for sure, because it keeps your video nice and clean and you can read what's happening. Because I think it's generally understood that most viewers on the platform are likely on mute until they decide not to be. So you want to account for that. You want to make sure that they can see what your video is saying, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally does. The results of our test, just so you know, we literally doubled with using animated subtitles, literally doubled our completion rate. So whatever percentage of people would make it to the very end, there were twice as many of them just for including burned in animated subtitles. And so I'm already a believer in what you're talking about.
Awesome. Yeah, right now all of our ads have subtitles. I mean, hands down, it does impact that completion rate. So great tip. That's actually awesome. I wish more people would be aware of it, but we're telling them right now. So make sure you put them in there.
Okay, here's a quick sponsor break, and then we'll dive right back into the interview.
The LinkedIn Ads Show is proudly brought to you by B2Link.com, the LinkedIn ads experts.
If you like getting a return from your LinkedIn ads, consider this. How much ad spend are you willing to waste along the way? After auditing over 800 LinkedIn ads accounts, we've seen one common theme, and that is wasted ad spend. B2Linked helps B2B companies maximize their profit by minimizing the waste that comes from poor targeting, bad bidding, and inefficient campaign setup. Book a discovery call with us today to eliminate the waste in your account. We'd absolutely love the chance to get to work with you. Just go to b2linked.com/discovery. Okay, now let's jump back into the conversation with Chandler. So We definitely need to talk about cost, because I think anytime we talk about video, immediately everyone's like, oh, hiring a production agency, renting expensive like Red cameras for the day. I mean, you can go crazy or you can do very simple. Talk through to us here about what are the costs involved with making good video creative for ads.
Sure. And I'll kind of try to provide some context that's helpful for any audience that's curious. When you're looking to make a video of any type, you should always think about quantity, right? And what you're going to get out of a video project. If you're out there and you're creating just one video, you're already handfuls of steps behind of where you need to be thinking. We only offer kind of suites of video. Making just one isn't worth it in terms of cost or efficiency for the client. So over the years, we've kind of developed this system of creating suites of video, whereas when we're making an ad, we're making handfuls of ads, we're making series of ads, we're making multiples of ads. That way, a lot more production can come out of that very expensive production day, but also the client's going to have a lot more variations to play around with in terms of testing. They might have alternate calls to action that they want to, evaluate and test, or maybe they even want to test different offers at the end of their ad and things like that. So to kind of try to paint a picture of accuracy here in terms of what video costs, I would say that it really depends on how much you're trying to make and what you're trying to accomplish. And you're right, you can go very simple and you can go, out of control crazy. And I'll give you an example of what I would say a middle of the road production looks like for us. And then I'll kind of give you a low end, and then the sky's the limit. And I always joke around. It's like, well, how many exploding helicopters do you want in your video? We can definitely do a lot with that. So we recently just completed a production for a really awesome recruiting platform called Loxo. And they came to us and they wanted to be bold. They wanted to stand out. They wanted to have fun. And because they're kind of a fun brand, it just made perfect sense for us to collaborate. So their production was two different concepts. One is alien themed and one is Bigfoot themed. And you've seen some of these behind the scenes photos, and I hope that the ads launch soon so everyone can see them. And within that production, we produced multiple 30-second variations of the ads, multiple 15-second variations of the ads, which are completely different. So they're technically different assets. So the audience will actually get a continuity effect as they watch more and more of these ads. And on top of that, we've done the 6-second cut downs. And then on top of that, we get all the static photography of the characters from the shoot so that the company can use these elements in landing pages. They can use them in email blasts or as static ads and all these things that kind of build that cinematic universe of your brand. So a production like that, this is usually a 12-week project. I mean, there's a lot of creative development. There's a lot of pre-production that goes into it. I mean, finding locations, actors, props, art, wardrobe, all the ins and outs that go into a production. And then, of course, the production day, which is not just one day. It's not just getting out a camera and here we go. There's a lot of planning and a lot of logistics that go into it. And for this particular shoot, there was a prep day. There was a pre-light day, which is when we have everything set up and we're doing rehearsals. We're getting everything lit properly. Then there was a production day, and then there was a wrap-up day. So believe it or not, you have to take all that stuff down once you're done filming. And then there's the post-production phase, which is a number of weeks. So all of that together, I know it sounds like a lot, and I'm not trying to melt anyone's brain here, but that type of production is around a $75,000 to $100,000 plus type of endeavor. Now, Loxo really wanted to go big, and we did go big. Not every company needs to be at that level. If you're around the $30,000, $40,000 level, again, you're not getting one video. You're getting a fantastic suite of assets that are really going to give you some longevity, some evergreen content that you'll be able to use for a long time, and a whole bunch of assets to work with. And one of the things that we bring to the table that I think is really important for everybody to think about, including if you'll never work with us, is always ask your video production partner for variations. So you want, if you only have, $30,000 or $40,000, you want to make some big ads and they're going to be really fantastic, awesome, but ask for multiple versions of your call to action. Ask for different hooks, right? That first couple seconds of the video where you're changing the script. I mean, it could be something as simple as calling out a particular ICP. Hey, event producers, or hey, event coordinators. Those are two totally different roles and totally different personas that might resonate with one audience over another. So always ask for iterations and make sure that's part of your creative partner's process, because you're going to get a lot more value out of things. The number one goal of any video production company should be to make content that lasts a long time. No one wants a flash in the pan. You want ads that you can rely on for 3, 6, 9 months, or even a year. In fact, our world record, one of our clients has run the same video creative for 2 years, and they were able to do that because we made so many different variations that they were able to constantly keep it fresh, and it performed extremely well. And now they're actually out there raising a $20 million Series A based on all the traction we brought them. So it just goes to show how important variations are, because it can extend that lifespan of your content, especially when you're spending any amount of money on something. You want it to last and you want it to be of quality. So hopefully that kind of answers your question as best as possible. Video is variable, right? Again, you could go really simple and it could just be 2 people talking on a podcast and it could be really good. Or, we could be dressing up in crazy costumes, making characters. We could have the stunt person from Fast and the Furious help us lower an alien down from the ceiling, which is exactly what we did. You can go bananas, but that's really a preference of the client and how kind of bold they want to be. And believe me, going bold goes a long way. It's a game changer.
So talking about a production that may cost between, let's say like 30 and 70 grand, that might sound like a lot of money to someone, but I think if I were to tell you that there was an investment that you could make of $30,000 to $70,000, that when you then went to LinkedIn ads, you would get a discount, an 80% discount off of all of your ad spend for the rest of the time, I think you'd probably say, oh, that makes sense. That's how I think about this. This is making an investment in creative that stops people in their tracks it's more than 5 times more effective than running something that is boring and static and dumb. And you're going to get a discount on everything you run. So seriously, I want you to think about it. Like, does that budget sound high? If it does, think about the effectiveness and like how much money you're wasting on ads that you don't have to if you invested in the creative that drove the ads to be insane.
Yeah, you know what? I always say this quote. I've been saying it for 11 years. If you think the cost of good video is high, you should see the cost of bad video. It's a lot higher. And it's not to say that the productions are more expensive. It's that they're going to be inefficient. You're going to be spending way more on the platform to get these served, to get that watch, that that view rate, which is going to be low on a bad or boring ad. Whereas if you just have a little fun and kind of go all out, as they say, it will pay dividends in terms of that optimization and that efficiency. And that's really where I think the gold in the hills is on LinkedIn, because if you can spend, $10,000 or $15,000 a month in your ad spend, but you're getting the efficiency as if you're spending 25 or higher than that, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like free money. It really is. And it's all powered by the creative. And that's why we want the creative to last a long time, so you can keep that optimization and that efficiency going. That's the idea, because you want to see an ROI on your ads. Absolutely. And that type of performance will get you there.
And I absolutely do want people to consider working with you. That's really important. But let's say that one of our listeners just does not have this kind of money in their budget. It doesn't make sense for them to work with you. Do you have any recommendations or tips for people who are just trying to make simple video, a marketer with their phone, for instance?
Yeah, I have 2 bits on that. Number one, if you think you're not qualified for us or our budgets are too high, totally get it, totally fair. Don't hesitate to reach out. We never have any conversation where someone goes home empty-handed. We always give our best advice, regardless of if you even have a business or not. We'll talk to anybody just so we can help one person make one better decision in terms of video. So just want to let everyone know that that's, we're here for that. We're here to help in any way possible, because that's the mission that we're on. So in terms of if you can't afford high production video, the best thing you can do is start trying video on your own. And it could be as simple as an iPhone. I mean, you can get really cheap lights on Amazon. You don't have to know anything about production to make a video, because we all have been, for the past 20 years, we have the best cameras in the world in our hands. So rely on the equipment you have, for one. For two, the really important things that you want to make sure you're doing if you're making your own video and you don't have the budget is just make sure the audio quality is there. Invest in a microphone. They're not that expensive. You can get away with something under a couple $100, and audio is going to be key. And this works really well for the thought leadership type stuff, when it's just kind of one person, hanging out, and they're doing, maybe it's even a selfie style, and they're kind of talking to the audience on LinkedIn. Those do very well, by the way. But if the audio quality is there, you're going to give your audience a better chance at getting something out of your video because it needs to be crisp and clear, especially if you want them to understand your message. You can kind of go a couple layers deeper. You can invest in a little bit more lighting. You can't see behind me, but I have a few lights that I pull out when I do a video, when I send it to a prospect or a client for an update. You know, you can use lights, and YouTube is a great resource for finding these tips and tricks. I mean, everyone has to start from somewhere with their learning curve, and just a few simple searches on Google can really help you get going in terms of making awesome content with literally just your iPhone and maybe a microphone and a light or two. It's not that complicated. I think where people tend to be a little bit afraid is maybe in that post-production process, but these days there's so many editing platforms that are so easy to use that you could have zero experience and be putting together a video within minutes if you just are patient with yourself and you put in a little bit of time to kind of learn a little bit. So hopefully that's helpful, but I would say don't be afraid to try. I mean, the number one thing you can do is just try it and try again and try again and learn every time you do it. And you'll get better over time. And before you know it, you'll be awesome at it.
I can't agree with that advice more. I have been so afraid of video for so long because it really is daunting. But once I actually got into like, okay, I'm going to hit the record button and I'm going to do it. The first time you shoot something, it takes a lot longer than the fifth time you do it. And you get really comfortable really fast. And I would say, I mean, everyone, for your personal brand, for your business, you need to be on camera. You need to be like paying attention to what you're doing in video because video really is the future. All right, so we've talked quite a bit, like you and I, about the funnel. You've mentioned that you feel like marketers make the funnel too complex. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started noticing as I was kind of learning a little bit about how LinkedIn worked, and I was, as I was going to various distributor websites and Googling all sorts of things, I was starting to see content about the ad funnel and how it was structured. And I know everyone's probably going to have a chuckle when they hear this, but you'll see a diagram that looks like a spider web of all these different places you're going to send your audience based off of if they've been to this certain web page or if they're in the awareness part of your funnel or the consideration part of your funnel. And it gets so daunting that I think people tend to like almost look at it and go, wow, this is so complicated. That must be how it works. And to be honest with you, after our own frustration with failing, with creating the exact funnel frameworks that a lot of folks lay out, we just were like, okay, well, we have to try something different. What are we going to do? So we wanted to simplify the funnel. And the way we think about it is that no matter what, your audience is always in the awareness stage. No matter what, even if they're 5 minutes away from buying, they're still in that awareness stage. They're always getting to know you. They're always wanting to learn more about your brand. And they're always kind of, think of them like a sponge. They're there to absorb everything you put in front of them. So when we thought about the funnel that way, where everyone's in the awareness stage always, we decided to do a couple little experiments. We were serving the same ad over and over again to people on different retargeting layers, but this was showing us things like I mentioned earlier of people watching longer down the funnel, clicking more down the funnel, engaging more down the funnel. And that's totally counter to what everyone else tells you in terms of funnel setup. Now, it's not to say that a complicated funnel won't work, but another way to think about it is think about the variables, right? If you have so many different places and paths that a customer could go, you would need so much ad spend to get a significant data set that, once you stack up 5, 6, 7 paths, 8 paths, 9 paths, and some of these companies are doing hundreds of paths, you'll never know what's working the best. And your ultimate goal is to find the right setup that works the best. And then when that starts to fail or crumble, then it's time to try something new. And you got to start with the basics. You got to start simple. So I encourage everybody to kind of rethink their funnel. Again, at the end of the day, people are human and they're going to do their own digging. So don't be afraid to serve them the same thing again and again, because they will do a deeper dive the next time. And we're showing in the data that it works. I mean, it's a little scary to think counter to what everyone's been doing, but in the new wave of B2B, I mean, that's where it's going. It's going simple and it works.
And you're right. You can get crazy with video. You could make it episodic where it's like, okay, anyone who watches this first video, we're going to retarget, the 100% completions. And then we're going to show them the second video in the series. And you could have 15, 20 campaigns, all with different objectives, different retargeting layers, and get it really, really complex. Or you could do like you're saying and really, really make it simple. And I feel like the simpler it is, the more effective it's actually going to be because we're actually going to execute. We won't leave something out. When you talk about people watching again and again, have you found an element of fatigue running the same content for a while? Or if you have, at what point, how long can you run creative and have it still perform well?
We're actually running that experiment right now. The current ad suite that we're running, I believe we've been running it now for probably around 6 months, and we've found zero fatigue. In fact, we're finding people mentioning on our prospect calls, I saw your ad a couple times, and then one day I watched the whole thing and I was like, oh, okay, well, like the fatigue is, the customers are calling, so it seems to be working somewhere, but we're not seeing any evidence of fatigue. I think it's more so the fatigue is actually with the objectives. Like I mentioned, we've been running a fantastic engagement campaign, and then all of a sudden one day it would just not serve. And we're like, well, what's this all about? We initially thought it was about fatigue, but when we turned on other objectives and then that would serve like crazy, we realized that it's likely not the fatigue, it's likely the objective. Now, I'm sure there is a shelf that we'll get to with these current set of ads, but the good news is that for cold audiences, they've never seen these before. So we can keep running them to cold, but our retargeting audiences that have been kicking around for 90, 180 days, or maybe even a year, we do want to show them some fresh things. So we'll actually introduce fresh creative to retargeting audiences first, and then we'll bring that back to cold once we kind of feel like we can make the transition. That's also counter to what most people would think as well, but it's a really good play because you've already invested a lot of time and money into this first set of messaging that you put out. And if it was working, there was nothing wrong with it. So show the retargeting audiences your new stuff first, and then recycle that back to the cold once the cold is totally exhausted.
And I think that's brilliant. I also want to say that this is what you can do with good, interesting visual creative. Because if you tried to do the same thing with boring, static creative, you will find your click-through rates drop over time. Audience is saturating. They're raising their hand saying, yeah, this is content I've seen before. I no longer care. So again, one more like big cheer for having good creative, because there's so much more you can do with it and it lasts for so much longer.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll add to that is try to make creative so entertaining that it's awesome to watch it again. It's a delight to see this ad again. You go, oh, I love this ad. I mean, you can probably refer back in the day, the Old Spice ads, Dollar Shave Club, things like that, even Geico ads. When they come on, you're excited to see it again, to be like, oh, this is the ad I was talking about. That's exactly what we're seeing in B2B. I mean, how awesome is that? B2B marketers should be thrilled that that's how people are behaving now, because that means that things can get a lot more fun, a lot more simple, and a lot more efficient and effective. I mean, what's better than that? It's awesome.
Totally agreed. All right, so we're headed into 2024. I think it's important that we talk about some predictions. Do you have any predictions specifically for LinkedIn or for B2B in general?
Yes, I do. And I'm glad you asked, because I think, and I mean, put my money where my mouth is. This is my livelihood. B2B is going to get a lot more fun, a lot more entertaining in the coming years, especially crossing into 2024 with a chaotic economic environment. There's definitely a lot of shakeups at some of these B2B companies. So we will be seeing new C-suites, new CMOs trying new and different things, especially as the generation that's in the workforce now getting a little bit, I don't want to say they're getting younger, but they're kind of from a younger generation, like I mentioned earlier. So I think we're going to see a lot more fun, a lot more entertainment, and a lot of B2B companies thinking like media companies and thinking like B2C companies. Content is here to stay. It's going to be king forever. And we need to lean into that. And I think that's kind of the last domino to fall, is the full embracing of this type of content for B2B. And, the more companies that we can work with and bring success to, and the more companies that are working with other fantastic creative agencies that find these same results with the same type of content, we're waiting for the tipping point. We're definitely early, but we're getting there. And every day when we book calls, thanks to all your advice and knowledge on the LinkedIn platform, we are seeing the indications that this is where everyone is going, and it's where everyone's thinking. I can't tell you how many times I get the message, I wish my boss would let us do something fun. I wish my boss would let us do this, but that day's coming. So we love hearing that. That's not a negative thing at all. That's actually one of the best things to hear, because we know people are thinking about it. It's on their radar, and that's important.
Very, very cool. All right, so we all need something to look forward to. What are you most excited about professionally right now?
Professionally, I'm very passionate about it. I'm super, I mean this, I'm fully genuine here. I love helping B2B marketers try new things and think differently. So I'm excited for that. Every day when we book a call or get an email or get a LinkedIn message, I'm thrilled because that gets me out of bed in the morning, and I'm here for this mission. I'm here for this change. I'm in for the long haul. So professionally, that's what gets me excited, is talking to more of you out there who want to learn how to do things differently. Yeah, that gets me excited.
And what about personally? Do you have anything personally going on that you're really excited about?
Personally, I mean, that's a loaded question. I'm getting married at the end of the year. I'm really excited for that. I'm taking a vacation finally it's been probably 20 years since I've took a proper vacation, so I'm excited for that. But you know me, this is my life. So what's exciting for me professionally is exciting for me personally. I love sharing the content we make. I love being on set with productions. I love meeting people, networking, and all that stuff. So I'm excited just about for everything, you know? It's all here.
Very cool. All right, how do you want people to be able to get in touch with you?
Cool. You can visit us at thevideobrothers.com, but more importantly, follow us on LinkedIn, shoot us a message, find me personally and connect with me. And that's the best place to find us, because that's where we are every single day. We're all over LinkedIn. I'm sure many of you have seen our ads thus far. And if you haven't, you go to our website, you definitely will. So find us there, and yeah, you can shoot me an email, Chandler@thevideobrothers.com. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. My photo is upside down, and believe me, that's lead gen. I get messages every day. Hey, your photo's upside down. Did you know? Of course I knew. How are you doing today? It works. It's weird, but it works. I mean, we're here to do those fun experiments so you all can watch us and go, okay, we'll try it too. So that's that.
Awesome, Chandler. Thanks so much for coming on, sharing your gold. We'll put your email address, your LinkedIn page, your company's LinkedIn page, so everyone can follow and get in touch. But sincerely, thank you. Have an awesome new year.
Thanks.
All right, I've got the episode resources for you coming right up, so stick around.
Thank you for listening to the LinkedIn Ad Show. Hungry for more? AJ Wilcox, take it away.
All right, like we talked about in the episode, we have a link in the show notes below to Chandler's LinkedIn profile. So go connect with him, follow him, reach out to him there. He also was kind enough to give us his direct email address, so you can reach out to him at chandler@thevideobrothers.com. I also linked to an article on the Video Brothers blog where Chandler details out the test that he's running on LinkedIn, shows some of his ad creative specifically that we talked about here in the episode. You're definitely going to want to go read that blog post. Like we talked about at the top of the show, if you're not already a member of the LinkedIn Ads Fanatics community, what are you waiting for? Go to fanatics.b2linked.com and join up. For a very low monthly fee, you get access to the entire community of LinkedIn ads experts like yourselves who are all bouncing ideas off of each other, learning and honing their craft. But you also get access to all 4 of our courses that take you from absolute beginner to total LinkedIn ads expert. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you keep hearing this content week after week. If you're a regular listener of the show, so excited to have you back yet again. Thank you very much. Also, please do go and do us the favor of reviewing the podcast, especially on Apple Podcasts. It is by far the best way that you can say thanks for us putting all this content together week after week. With any questions, suggestions, or corrections on anything we've talked about, reach out to us at podcast@b2linked.com. And with that being said, we'll see you back here next week. I'm cheering you on in your LinkedIn ads initiative.